Today we are going to be talking a little bit about AI. And with me, I have another Erik. Erik Hetényi is here with me. He is a solution architect with Element Consulting and also our in-house AI expert and specialist. So, hey, how's it going, Erik? And great to have you here.
Hey everyone, thank you. It's great to be here. It's a very exciting and new topic to talk about.
So, yeah, today we're going to be talking about kind of like the AI. And usually everything I hear is everyone says AI is going to run the factory or be a valued asset within the company. And really the question is, well, will it actually? What do you think, Erik?
Maybe not right now, but can see that in the near future being a possibility. Yes.
Right. Yep. Everybody's exploring it, trying to see what it can do. We've definitely done our part, both internally and with our clients. So we definitely have some opinions that are forming. So with this too, we've used this recently on a project. So can you walk me through what the problem is that we were solving and how you thought, you know, how you're going to approach it?
Currently, I'm leading an implementation project for a major aerospace customer, and we had a requirement that we have to upgrade their system from version 12 to version 13.1, which does not have a direct upgrade path. So we have to do two upgrades right after each other, which included also operating system upgrades, which included uh, vault relocations and re-indexing, new replica server installations, and so on within a single weekend maintenance. And the idea was that I've been following AI since it came out publicly, and I've been spending a lot of time training myself over the past 10 years. And I've been building a framework where AI could be a genuine helper or a partner in running engagements.
Hmm.
So my thought was that let's see if we can utilize AI's speed and accuracy in something like an upgrade where there is no built-in domain knowledge in the AI. So you have to come up with a framework and come up with a knowledge base and come up with instructions and rules and procedures that will allow the AI to even attempt or succeed in such a very niche field.
Yeah. So you already described going from 12 to 13.1 of Windchill is a pretty big step on top of all of these other things that you described of and all in a single weekend. You're like, what in the heck? So somebody who's never had to deal with this before, can you kind of explain maybe the level of effort you're essentially having to try to get yourself into for this upgrade weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually this is depending on the size of the customer. It could go from a 3-month engagement to all the way up to a year engagement with multiple people involved, a lot of installation, a lot of trying and erroring and fixing things. And it is almost like an open heart surgery on an engineering system. It's not just a click on an update button and here we are, we're ready to go. So it is complex. It involves a lot of functions and lot of roles, both technical and business. And it typically touches almost every component of your system, starting from the application to the web server, to its runtime components, to its operating systems, almost everything.
Right. Yep. No, that's definitely a lot. And so there's so many moving pieces when you're doing an upgrade like this. I mean, you already talked through all the different components. You're even doing like an OS major change. You're in a regulated government cloud. Not only that, it's also clustered. There's a vault relocation. So many things to worry about. Which one of these were you worried about the most?
Well, the entire upgrade is always um, risky in a production environment because you're introducing new functionalities, you're transforming database schemas, which are practically irreversible without reverting the
Mhm.
entire system. there's always a risk of data loss when you're moving bulk contents from one location to another. So it is always a risk in production. That is the reason why we usually do multiple rehearsals um, prior to a production upgrade to make sure everything is going smoothly. Um, to me, in this particular project, what was the most concerning is probably the two hook upgrade. This was one of the first one that I've did to go from a very old version to the most recent one. This practically almost doubled the effort to get everything in.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and for those who haven't really even thought about what that means, is that usually you have to, the PTC provides an upgrade manager, and it essentially means you have to run the upgrade manager twice. So if the upgrade manager only manages so many version changes, and then so once you've exceeded that, you then have to run it twice, which means, hey, the one for 12.1 only gets you to say 13.0. Once you're in 13.0, you now have to use another one to get you to 13.1. Lots of work. And of course, lots of problems that run into the way, errors, all kinds of things you have to overcome. So, with this, what's the normal outcome that happens when a company that attempts this, and what's the bad version of this weekend look like?
When it really goes bad, that I'm happy to say that I've never been part of an upgrade yet where we actually had to go back and revert the version to what it was or we attempted the upgrade. But the bad version of this weekend looks like that when the upgrade manager, for example, crashes mid transformation of the database and you quickly just cannot move forward. You have to go backwards and you lose a lot of time. You have to reschedule the whole thing. A lot of dependencies on the project for a lot of people's time, including validation uh, and so on. So the bad version is that you don't succeed on the weekend. You have to revert back and you have to replan the whole thing, find the maintenance window one more time, and find the people to be available on the weekend time. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the bad version.
Right. And that's probably also why some of these projects take so long. You have to really make this successful, you have to rehearse it so many times. And that's why people feel like, why is it going to take me 6+ months, almost a year to do this? Well, that's because it's a lot of work, lots of time invested. If it does go wrong, hey, guess what? You could be back on the drawing board for another 3 months. So yeah, that's all the fun parts. So with
Yes.
this, you ended up doing like across 3 different environments, as like most teams maybe do 1 or 2. So why did you think 8 was the appropriate number?
I didn't think it was appropriate. I was just doing the rehearsals until it was 100% successful without my intervention in the process. So mind that I wasn't the one executing almost 90% of the whole upgrade. It was the AI agent that I created for this particular scenario. And some of these rehearsals, I wasn't even near the computer when it was happening. It was running overnight. It was running in off hours. So the idea was that we run these rehearsals until there are literally no more surprises, no more error messages that we didn't know what to do when it happens. And the magic number was 8. It took us 8 runs to get to a point where it was able to fix any errors that came up and it was able to succeed without my intervention.
That's awesome. Because yeah, making sure it succeeds is really important. So, and then I do also remember hearing you say that each rehearsal kind of failed in a new place. So, what does that mean, and why did that happen?
So what people have to understand about AI is that it has a vast amount of knowledge, probably more than any person can collect, but it doesn't have proprietary knowledge, especially in a niche domain like PLM. It just doesn't exist. So it doesn't know exactly how to run through an upgrade like we do with over 15, 20, 25 years of experience. It just doesn't exist. So it doesn't know what to programmatically or technically. He had ideas, but it was very far from being accurate all the time. So every time we moved forward from one problem to another, either we had to build rules of engagements, what to do in certain situation, or I had to let it ask the questions about how it's supposed to work, and my domain knowledge helped fill the gaps, so it knew how to move forward from previous error that just happened.
And so with each rehearsal, there's a failure. And, was there a rehearsal failure that maybe had scared you the most? Or if that failure occurred on the production go live, that it may have done something?
Um, that's a very interesting question because it all comes down to the trust, right? How confident we were on the weekend that this is going to work. And I want to say after 8 rehearsals, watching all the um, evidence-based rehearsals being done, I wasn't worried at all on the weekend when it was. Um, I want to say that through the 8 rehearsals, I've seen probably more potential error messages than a normal person would caught on during the rehearsals because AI
Mm.
was capable of following multiple threads at the same time, being able to look into logs, stack traces, databases, directories, everything. And it was pointing out a lot of customer configuration or misconfiguration per se that wasn't supposed to be there and that was blocking the upgrade. So I want to say that 8 rehearsals also helped clean up the customer environment quite a lot
Mm.
because it was able to find all these before we even attempted a production upgrade. So I was very confident and I absolutely had no worries or doubt that it will not work.
Oh, right. That's such gold right there. Like just the ability of AI to scan all of these logs that are being generated. I mean, like usually we have teams of like two guys that are monitoring the upgrades. And you think they have time to dig through the mountains of data that they're getting in these log files, and the fact that it's sitting there going, "Oh, hey, by the way, you got these error messages and you should probably update these configuration options." I mean, who knew?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
One good example was that when you move from an older version to a new one, um, you have some unintended leftover configurations that no longer work. For example, like
mm,
custom configurations for the customer, where PTC a couple of years ago decided that they're going to switch from calling some of the properties master to main, right? And it's a very minor thing for somebody to notice, like, oh, by the way, when you do an upgrade from this version to the next one, you have to go back to totally unrelated property that has nothing to do with the upgrade itself. But you have to make sure you update that. Otherwise,
mm.
the new version will not work. Well, the cluster will never come back online. And this was one of the examples where AI were extremely helpful that I didn't think of it, even though I knew about this change, but it just didn't occur to me. And instead of wasting hours and hours of research and trying to figure out what's wrong, it immediately caught on and first engineered the whole thing and said, like, yeah, by the way, this property no longer exists. This is the one that you have to figure in order for this to work.
Right.
So that was extremely helpful.
Right. No, it's all great stuff. So let's get on the topic of like, so you're doing all this stuff with AI. So let's start digging in and get a little bit more specific, because sometimes when they say, "Oh yeah, we used AI to do this," I mean, we hear that so often it doesn't actually mean anything. But
Yeah.
what did it actually do?
So basically, the idea was that it will do every scriptable step and it will do everything that does not need a UI interaction. And it will do autonomously everything that um, doesn't destroy or modify data uh, to begin with. For example, it did the complete OS upgrade. It planned it, designed it, executed it. I just verified the outcome and I knew it was good. Um, the GUI part, for the upgrade manager, when you're running the upgrade, there is a user interface that you have to interact with. I deliberately kept it for myself, and I also built in gates to whenever there was an irreversible step, then it had to stop and it had to wait for my instruction to either proceed or stop. So that was basically the split. I did the irreversible calls and the GUI parts, and he did the boring and time-consuming automated scriptable steps in the whole.
And then essentially, I think I remember also hearing you tell me about, you said that there's this rule that says verify, never assert. So can you explain what that rule is and why you thought it was important that you made that rule in this process?
Solely. So the rule was meant to be stopping AI to just assert certain things that may not happen in the system. For example, he just sees a success message somewhere and assuming that everything is working. That's not the case, and sometimes it's even for us humans, it's a misleading information. So the rule was that uh, we have to understand. So first of all, we started with the understanding process down to its core. And once we understood the process, that was the rule that never assert anything. You always have to bring evidence that the step was actually executed in a way we meant it. So this helped the AI agent to not just infer the like, okay, I executed it, the step, whatever the step it was. So I think it's complete. Now it always had to go in, verify, present the evidence back to me that it was legitimately completed in the way we wanted it to.
And yeah, I think that whole thing is making sure that it's doing the right thing before it continues. That's amazing because yeah, we definitely don't want it to do something and just move on when whatever it should have done was not correct.
Yes, correct. And also the missing domain knowledge. So just
Mm,
because what to execute or how to execute technically, it doesn't mean he understood what he was doing.
right. Yep. Yeah. So with that, what you said you drew the line at reversibility, not difficulty. So what is the right line?
Right. The reason why I drew that line is because I believe difficulty is a wrong axis because AI is really good at computing stuff. It's really good at programming. It's really good at vast research across multiple files. However, the right axis, the reversibility, I think the reason why it's better is because the cost of being wrong is greater.
Mm,
Because usually in an agentic workflow, an AI agent can just try and error all the time, like very, very long time until it gets it right, which is a possibility. And most of the time, frontier models are capable of figuring out, even if they don't have the domain knowledge, they have reasoning and they have thinking, and they can come up with a solution. But an irreversible step, if it does a mistake, that usually results in a revert, which takes time to get that done.
so obviously, that's definitely a very good rule to put in place, especially with a very important system that you're upgrading.
Correct.
All right. So tell me about a time that AI was confidently wrong, because I know that this does happen. What did it want to do, and what would have happened if you had let it?
Yeah. There were times for sure throughout the rehearsals. One funny one that I remember fondly is when I was running the user interface part and filling out the details for the upgrade manager for the target environment. He was following the console log of what is happening. And I remember I was multitasking, so I didn't field quick enough. And he just thought like, oh, this doesn't move forward. So let me kill it and restart it. So while I was filling out the form, he killed the upgrade manager underneath me and said like, okay, this was failing. So let's start over. So I had to tell him like, no, the console messages doesn't give you what I'm doing in the UI. So you have to wait until you see certain keywords in the console message indicating that I'm done with my part. So that was actually a funny thing. And that could have been a wrong thing to happen, for example, in production, because in production, we design these upgrades in like almost every 15 minutes. We know what's going to happen next. And something like this, to throw off the entire plan when you have to restart the whole thing because he thought it wasn't doing anything. So that was actually a funny situation where he was so confident, like, oh, this is not working. Yes, it is. It's just me working in the UI much slower than you are.
So you're saying that AI isn't just confidently wrong, but it's also very impatient and can't wait for you.
I don't know about that, but this particular scenario, yes, it thought it was not doing anything while I was manually typing stuff.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah.
And so I do know also another thing that you did was is you made it say, I don't know, instead of just guessing what it thought the right answer was. So how hard was that to enforce that rule in that, and what did it look like when it worked?
Yeah, it took some time for sure, and it didn't started with this particular project. So I've been fine tuning these agents and skills and personas to work the way I wanted to work with AI, and so it takes time. It takes a lot of time to get that right, and basically the key reason why I'm doing all this is because again missing domain knowledge. So I don't want it to guess and I don't want it to just like, come up with some hallucination at all. So that is why the rule verify, never assert exists. So if it doesn't find in the local knowledge base or in the memory or in the history that we've ever done something like this before, research is my own knowledge base how to do it. But if he cannot find any information and cannot safely figure out what the next step is, then it stops and asks me.
Mm.
That's an also standing rule that doesn't have the written proof of knowledge of how it's supposed to work. Stops and it says, I don't know the next step. So what to do next? And
Mm.
that's also a very important step in its self-learning mechanism is that every scenario like this has a retro functionality in it where it after each of our session, each of our conversation, it reads the session. And if it finds something that it didn't know the answer to, it automatically saves it in their own local knowledge base. So the next time he doesn't have to ask for it.
In fact, that also reinforces, did I actually give it all the information it needed? Because quite often there are times where we write knowledge documents and we forget to add some stuff in. And this is going to also then make the AI agent go, hey, you missed something. Please give me this bit of knowledge.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, no, it's great. So, what did it catch during this process that maybe you would have missed hours into the upgrade?
Um, One of the interesting one was, for example, during the OS upgrade when you have like a 14-minute blackout, when it's just practically the only way to see what's happening is through a console, a serial console on a virtual machine. And that's not something that normally an application person will think of like, oh, if I cannot SSH into the machine, then I
Mhm.
can look at the serial console and see what's happening. But it thought of it. So whenever we were figuring out the timings of like how long certain things would go, and I was just patiently waiting for the system to come back. It actually came up with the idea. I was like, oh, let's check the serial console and see what's going on. And it actually found that the machine, for whatever reason, whatever error message was during the upgrade, that caused it to boot into an emergency mode, and it never came back online. So technically, I could have waited days. Of course, it's a joke, but it could have
Yeah.
waited a lot longer. But it caught it immediately, like, oh, by the way, the upgrades failed, so we have to restart and we have to fix some of the upgrade parameters for the operating system for it to never occur again. So this was something that definitely these kind of issues were definitely the things that spell things a lot.
Yeah, because you already got enough to worry about on cutover weekend. To find and catch all these small things really prevents you from putting in a lot of sleepless hours.
Correct.
Great. So, when something does go wrong, so who's actually accountable here? Is this the AI or is this you?
Me, definitely me. And this is probably the answer to the first question that you asked, whether AI is ready to run the factory. The answer, that's the reason why I'm saying the answer is no, is because it still needs us to drive it, to tell it what to do. It's still not autonomous enough. It definitely does not have that experience and knowledge that we do.
It's all in how we train it. That's for sure. All right. So in the actual cutover, so you said there were 40 out of 40 phases with 0 failures.
Not on the production. 40 out of 40 phases, it's just typically all the steps that we did during the upgrade cut over on the weekend. And because it took 8 runs, and out of the 8 runs, the last two was error free without a hiccup, I had a very high confidence that this isn't going to be an issue uh, on the production week. So it had the run books, it had the rules, it had the gates, it had the steps, it had everything it needed to execute it perfectly.
And then so with this, you had the whole vault cutover too. So during, and this is kind of like almost the irreversible step because you're now taking the production vaults. And that took 2 minutes. So what's going through your head in those 2 minutes?
This wasn't a complete move. This was a relocation of the vault from the old system, the new one. So it wasn't it wasn't the most difficult one that I've ever had to encounter. There was no revaulting, no moving data. It was pointing the vault to the new system instead of the old one. However, it did require database updates so that it properly knew where the new location was. Um, like I said, I wasn't worried because we practiced this multiple times before, so we knew exactly which tables to touch, which files to update on the file system, how to create the sim links for the new vault, um, and practically nailed it.
So essentially, you're saying the more you train and rehearse this AI, the more confident you are and the less work.
That's true.
Oh, no, that's good. So with all this, so you're essentially doing this zero production outage cutover and over this multi-month stages. So how much of that is the AI and how much of that is rehearsal discipline?
It's the rehearsal discipline. I wouldn't say that. So we've been doing this long enough, so we know exactly what are the steps we need to take in order to upgrade the system from an old version to a new one. Uh, what the AI brought into this was the amount of rehearsals we can do in a very, very, very short time that we were never used to. So when we planning these things, we plan for 1 or 2 rehearsal because the effort is great, and we are usually trying to get those 1 or 2 done perfectly, and to do that takes a lot of time. But with here, when almost 90% of the steps are automated through an AI agent, um, quantity over quality all of a sudden becomes more efficient because we can, if something goes wrong, wipe the system, do the automated rehost through AI from production back to a lower level system, and then start over until can do it without an error.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely the rehearsal discipline that allows us to not to affect production at all. And it's definitely the AI part is definitely the one that brings us the confidence in repeatability.
I definitely love that because obviously the rehearsal discipline says do over and over again so that you can get it right. And with AI, you just were able to then multiply that in a much reduced time frame. So it was a huge productivity assistance during this whole rehearsal process.
Correct. And
Yeah,
mind that it was a solo person behind it. That usually is multiple people running these
right.
rehearsals. So with the help of AI, this was a productivity boost for one person.
Right. No, that's definitely a game changer. I've definitely had it before where we've had like a 4-person team that's rehearsing all this stuff. So you're saying that you could do it with one person and you could do it a lot more often? That's just nuts, but it's great.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So with this too, also with every kind of production rollover, there's some sort of rehearsed rollback. Then of course you never used it. So do you think that's wasted work at this point?
Well, it would almost sound like that. Oh, why do you? Obviously, we learned that when this was all happening manually, we learned that mistakes can happen by anybody, not just by humans, but AI can also do mistakes. Having a rollback is just best practice. You never give that step up for any reason because you
Oh
never
yeah.
know what.
Yep, for sure. And if you're following any sort of ITIL best practices, I mean, ITIL won't even let you do any sort of code change or upgrade or anything without any rollback procedure already defined. That's just part of IT best practice.
That's correct. Yes.
All right, so good. So with some additional AI capabilities that are here, so you even use this for even after go live. So essentially you had the same assistant refresh 4 lower environments in parallel, fully autonomously in under 2 hours after this upgrade. So what changed between a human-led effort and just let it run and do all these refreshes for you?
I want to say it's the risk profile that led, because throughout these 8 rehearsals, I always needed a brand new environment to start fresh so that we can
Mhm.
always practice the process from where we would do it live in production. So while we were doing the upgrade rehearsals, I also had to teach the AI agent how to do properly a rehost into a lower level environment, which, by the way, it wasn't an intentional step in the beginning. I didn't plan for it, but since I needed that, we practically developed a runbook with a bunch of scripts that was capable of doing it. So at the end of or near close to the production deployment, we actually made it an environment agnostic process. So all I had to do is to tell the agent which environments I wish to be rehosted. And just, if I remember correctly, it wasn't Saturday. It was the go live decision on Monday. And I remember leaving work, um, happy that we succeeded with the upgrade. And I just told the agents that, okay, here's the 4 environment, the lower level environments. I want each of them to be refreshed. And I just left the computer and I walked away. And when I came back, all 4 of them were complete, up and running, validated that it's working and it's correctly configured. So that was amazing to see that.
So after doing all this really hard work that you're doing, so what would you still never let it do unsupervised?
Um, Anything irreversible, and especially in production. Uh, Yeah, that is also one of the ground rules that we established, that anything irreversible is not an autonomous decision.
Okay. No, that's definitely a great rule to have. Yeah, let me make the decision for you. Just don't go ahead and make it for me.
Yes.
All right. So with this, you essentially had 30 catalog gotchas, and you also had a validated rollback procedure. So with all this, what does the next upgrade even look like versus this one?
Well, it's difficult to say because every customer is different. Every customer environment is different. Scenario, I was lucky because we were able to decustomize their system almost entirely. So I only have to deal with a roughly an out of the box environment throughout the upgrade. So I want to say that if a similar customer comes in, the already established framework that I created is definitely going to be faster. It's very unlikely that it's going to take rehearsals, probably a week or even less. And it could definitely speed up the process to get somebody from one version to another. Um, but if the customer environment is complex, big, heavily customized, then it's a different story because this time around, we will have to figure out whether the customization is compatible with the new version, whether their configuration or misconfiguration, for example, is preventing the upgrade to complete. So it is always dependent on the customer. But I want to say like a similar, roughly out of the box environment would take probably as much time as this one took. Because this time around, we also had to develop the entire framework, how we're going to do the upgrade today.
So let's get in a little bit to hype versus reality. And so is this the kind of thing where you can just stand up a tool? What kind of work did it take, to essentially do this with AI?
Right. So I want to say that the model itself was the least special about this whole setup. Um, I was using the customer's Anthropic blog model behind the scenes, but it was more about the local knowledge base that we built, the tools that the system could use, the connections to the remote servers, the standing rules, the error catalogs of like, if this happened, what is the solution for that? The persistent memory across all the 8 rehearsals. Those are also very important because it could look up of like, oh, how did I do this particular step? Because you have to understand about AI that every message you send is a blank uh, statement without the history of previous sessions. So within one context window, when you're talking about AI, it knows at the time what you were saying, but it won't remember previous conversations without persistent memory. So these are the frameworks and these are the tools and the utilities that we have to build around the model to make it work. And um, yeah, and also the other important step was to hook it up all this with the customer AI model.
And so yeah, it definitely takes quite a bit to this up and do it, but it definitely is very much worth the time and money you spend in doing this.
I agree.
So, if a team wanted to work this way, what is the first thing they would need that isn't a tool itself?
Um, I want to say the person sitting behind it, that
Mm,
person has to know enough about the process to catch the confident wrong answers. This is where it all could falls apart very quickly. In my opinion, AI is an efficiency booster and a productivity booster, and it amplifies whoever is sitting in front of it. If the person has a lot of experience and done that before, it can greatly improve uh, that one person's skills through AI. But if a person who has absolutely no knowledge about that, AI will mislead that
mm,
people and will go into a rabbit hole and just doing things that nobody would ever do in their right mind. So that could happen. So if
right.
PT wants to do this, first of all, find the experience, let that experience to be translated to roles, run books, knowledge bases. Um, and second of all, let that person sit through the multiple rehearsals, follow it, and judge its steps and do it until it's getting it right. And once you get it right, there is very little you have to do on the next one.
No, that's great. Yep. Yeah, like you said, it's only as good as the knowledge it has. So you better get a very knowledgeable person. You cannot just stand this up with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
So
Great.
to translate this into a little bit different wording, for example, I don't have to be a developer or programmer knowing shell scripting or Python coding to
Mm,
do automations to speed things up, like taking an entire system backup, right? I don't have to have that knowledge. In the past, we needed a separate person for that. It was like hand it over to a developer and say like, hey, can you develop a script that
mm.
whenever I run that, it will take a full backup or it will do a full automated restore of the environment. Didn't have to do all of that. And I still probably wouldn't be able to do all that if I just had to sit down and myself, or if I have to do it, it will take me weeks to figure out from documentation. But right now, in my position, all I had to know is that I need a proper backup. I need a procedure to roll back. And this is where AI was extremely helpful to run all these steps or develop all these steps for me. Doesn't mean that I didn't know what it was doing. It just means that I didn't have to have that level of technical knowledge in all the areas where AI was super helpful.
So I, this then bodes the question: does this become a tool you can trust, and how much can you trust the output of this AI tool?
That's an interesting question. And funnily enough, this goes back to the model itself. I've been trying out multiple frontier models on the market. Um, I personally like the cloud models from Anthropic or now
Mhm.
the people models that they came up with. Um, I gave a much higher confidence or trust. whatever they were doing in comparison to other frontier models. But the market is changing so fast. Almost every week or every month, there is something new.
Mhm.
The local open source models are catching up quite quite well on the market as well. So I want to say trust the system, not the not the output of what the AI is giving you. That could always be, a hallucination. But as soon as you build that framework that I was building, and I'm still to this day, after 10 months of trying to come up with this framework, to this day, I'm still fine tuning it. Once you have that, your trust level increases it with it parallel to its capabilities, what you're implementing.
So with this, I have one last question. So is the AI doing the work, or is AI making one very experienced architect more productive? And what happens when you take the architect away?
Yeah, I feel like that we've established is that AI making one very experienced architect more productive. It's definitely not them doing the work. I don't think anybody without that experience can just say like, "Hey, I want my system upgraded. Come up with an execution plan and do it." That will never happen. Not in the current state of AI without the proprietary knowledge that BTC has for their PLM software. That's never going to. Um, but a very experienced architect being more productive, I feel like this proof of concept we did for this customer proves it. Uh, with the amount of rehearsals we did, with the accuracy how we did it, with the amount of resources we have to do this, it's it's definitely a multiplier.
No, it's great. And I
Once
think that's exactly what we want. We want to be able to multiply the productivity, which is an amazing thing to do. And I think that's
it's
part of what made this upgrade cutover so successful is that we really were able to do a lot more in a very short period of time and make a really great successful outcome for the client.
yes, that's correct.
All right, so that was the last question, but I do have a couple of bonus questions left just for some of those kind of food for thought kind of things. So, what's the worst Windchill upgrade you've ever walked into?
I don't know if I'm just lucky, but I never actually had to walk into an upgrade that wasn't designed or planned by myself, where I wasn't there from the very beginning. So luckily, I've never had the experience of going into a disaster. Um, but in comparison or in retrospect of all the upgrades that I've done in the past, this one was probably the most fun that I've ever had and probably the fastest one that I ever did.
No, that's great. And so, another one. What do people always underestimate about a vault relocation? Because I think some people see that as, oh, we're just moving files. How hard can this be?
Yeah. I guess it all comes down to the Windchill architecture and depending on how that fault relocation is actually going to. Windchill actually stores the information in two places, stores the metadata and the location of the file in the database and the actual physical file on a disk. Um, Getting those two out of sync or losing data from one side or the other side, it's very difficult to spot, especially when you have millions of objects in your system.
Mhm.
So picking the right process, whether it's a built-in revolting, whether it's a manual copy, whether it's a manual SQL updating the database tables, picking the right tool in your unique circumstances is always key here. Um, Picking the wrong one, you could end up doing the process for weeks potentially, um, or picking the wrong tool, or maybe doing a manual update in a SQL database that you're just not familiar with, or you're not super confident about it. You could actually destroy data, which is always a dangerous thing to do. And we never ever recommend anybody to touch the database.
So, yeah, don't touch that data. In fact, the PTC says that all the time. Let our APIs touch the database. Don't you ever do anything.
That's correct.
So, So what's one pre-upgrade check that you do that nobody else always does?
Wow,
Or-
that's a good question. I don't even know how to answer that because I've never really been reviewing other people's upgrade procedures before. I want to say that um, before I did this AI one, I thought that I had a pretty good grasp of what it what an upgrade usually looks like and what are its steps. And the documentation that PPC is providing is big and detailed, but it's definitely not covering all the scenarios that customer could have, because obviously that would be almost impossible to create a guide for every possible outcome or scenario. But what was interesting is that I usually had a very high confidence that I can determine and figure out the best approach for an upgrade for a customer. And like I said, in the past, it worked. Maybe post upgrade, we had a few issues that we usually solve in hypercare that we might have missed. It was a possibility all the time. But this time around, when AI did the full analysis of the system and it compared against best practices and local knowledge bases and everything that I thought to that model, it was in the level of details, it was insane that I don't think I would have gone to that length of analysis myself. Uh, so yeah, if I didn't do it, then probably it would be valid for a lot of other out there.
No, it's definitely a lot for one person to grasp the entire end-to-end process. So I think you say it's like it's a mountain of data. Most people don't dig into the mountain of data. So this definitely helps you dig into that humongous mountain of data that you have to go through.
Yes.
All right. So what now? For one final last thing. So any advice that you can give to a solo Windchill admin that's staring down one of these major upgrades and has no budget for help?
Uh, well, I want to say if they are going to use AI um, for this, make sure their test environment reset is cheap and fast. Um, that can speed up rehearsals quite a lot if you can always restart relatively fast. Fixing a damaged environment to upgrade is time consuming, difficult, and usually not something that we would want to bother with. Um, document your steps, documents the errors that you're running into, because chances that you run into once, you will run it again twice, or maybe in production. Rehearse until you're getting it right, until there are no issues. And yeah, definitely use AI to help with the documentation. That was another thing that actually
Mm.
surprised me quite well. Um, as we were doing things, there was another standing rule to make sure that we are having proper documentations and the amount of runbooks we created, the execution logs, down to the last second of every comment that we executed. That was actually very valuable. The audit of the update. So definitely do that.
So essentially, pay me now or pay me later kind of mentality.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, no, thank you very much for your time. No, it's great to hear about all this great work that you did, especially not just digging into AI, but how it can really be a product for you and also for the client. Because essentially, what they got is they got a much faster turnaround while you're even multitasking, doing more than just an upgrade. Because we're obviously doing a lot more work than just an upgrade for that client. So it was essentially doing multiple things all at once and made that team much more productive while we're doing, yeah, a lot of great work. So, no, I very much appreciate your time today. And no, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.